Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you had a great week. Last week we discussed two scenarios, right? Number one, we were either gonna, break out and, go retest 4,300, or if the breakout fails, very likely gonna, kind of fill a CPI gap. Right now, you can kind of see that scenario number two played out, right? We're almost 3/4 of the way filled the gap. So again, from this point, I'm still, predominantly of the opinion that we're very likely still going to make a higher low and still test the 4,400 area, right? The only difference is number one, right? We could begin kind of the Santa rally or whatever starting this week, or again, as you can see, we've not actually, if I go to the chart of SPX, you can kind of see that the gap does not fill to like 3,754. So again, we could just have, the other scenario is if we don't have a strong trend day is we go up to, go reject this 3,900 area that we discussed, right? Come down to fill this CPI gap, right? To finish off this C wave, right? Before this B wave is done in the, WXY wave. So it's kind of what I'm kind of looking at, bigger picture, right? Either I'm watching to see if we've already, right? We've already kind of bottomed, right? In ES, where, this level holds as the low before we go higher, or if 3,900 rejects, I'll probably look for a short down to 3,754 before it pushes up for that C wave, right? Again, the reason the bottom could be in is if you look at like, like QQQ and stuff, you can kind of see if I fib it from the top to the bottom, you can see that the Qs have almost come to the 618, right? I go to IWM, you can kind of see that this has, again, almost come down to the 618 fib, right? The golden ratio. So obviously SPX is further ahead, right? If I hit fib the top to the bottom on SPX, you'll be able to see that we're still, kind of sitting at the 0.5 fib. So that could be, kind of a major reason the low could be in. But again, the structure does look like a 1 2 3 4 5, so I won't rule out, right? Again, if we reject 3,900, probably look for like a short down. If we do consolidate around 3,900 and push up, then I think we could, form the opinion that, this higher low is kind of in place before it pushes higher for the C wave. And again, last week we did discuss the oversold stocks like Amazon and Tesla, and you can kind of see that, right? As long as we said that this demand area at 87 holds, the structure on Amazon is intact. And yeah, even though Amazon kind of had that oversold CPI bounce, you can kind of see that we're still, right, had this oversold bounce and then it kind of sold off. We're still kind of holding this demand area, right? Structure wise, even Tesla, right? We discussed that if it couldn't, right, break out of this, let's go to the 4-hour, right? We were kind of here on data, and we said that if we couldn't break out of this, very likely we'll retest the bottom of this channel. Again, you can see we're almost at the bottom of the channel, right? Pretty much. So we could very easily, kind of have that oversold bounce again for Tesla, another oversold stocks kind of aligning with the indexes for a major rally. We look at Apple, right? Apple, I've shown you guys this trend line, right? This trend line holding a support, and you can see that we did actually end up breaking that trend line. So it'll be very interesting to see if Apple actually ends up, kind of having a follow through to the downside, right? Because we discussed how this was a major trend line holding a support, and it will be interesting to see if on Monday it gets stick saved, right? If it gets saved, we're very likely going back to the top of the channel. And if this channel breaks, we go higher. Otherwise, we're kind of still stuck in this channel. Will be interesting to see if Apple, breaks below 134, and then it should have there's barely any, if I zoom out, you'll be able to see that Apple barely has any major, if I go to the daily chart, right? You'll be able to see that below this area, right? There's really no significant support to 116. So it'll be very interesting, right? Interesting to see is if Apple gets saved in this area, right? You can very clearly see every time we've come to this region, that's pretty much gotten saved. Otherwise, it should easily fall down to 126. Apple's kind of in a precarious spot, right? And we look at Netflix. We discussed last week that if CPI was bearish, it would be a prime candidate to come down to the downside. You can see that Netflix kind of dropped like how much, like 10-12%. So that was a nice short. But again, till this trend line breaks on Netflix, right? around 270, it's still kind of in an uptrend, right? So can't really have much to say till it breaks back below this level on Netflix. And last but not least, we look at Microsoft, right? Microsoft, again, it did break over this important resistance, but again, we came right back down to Microsoft. So Microsoft could, again, if we do reject 3,900, then Microsoft could be a good short candidate, right, into this gap fill before it goes higher. But yeah, Microsoft, again, I'm looking to see if it does make this higher low before it goes higher. With that being said, right, let's just kind of look at this week's watch list, right? A stock that I have been monitoring, right, which has a lot of strength is DDOG. And you can see this is the downtrend, right? We broke out of the downtrend and DDOG is just kind of hovering over the downtrend. So as long as, DDOG kind of holds this 74, 75 area, I still think, it makes a higher low. And we push up, kind of at least till this gap fill in 93. So it's kind of the reason I have, DDOG on this week's watch list. The next one I have is Coin. And the reason for that is, again, you kind of see I have this downward trending line. And I kind of think BTC is going to push higher, right? Now that it's kind of made a higher low. On BTC, you can see that we did have a nice rally, right, to this previous area of resistance, had a pullback, and now it's kind of making this higher low. So as long as this level holds, right, or stays above 16,000, I think Coin should kind of borrow whatever miner you kind of want to play, should kind of be able to, bottom out in this zone, right, before it moves higher. So I'm looking to see. For now, I'm not looking for a major rally. I think a move up to 50s, kind of reasonable. That would give you, right, that's 30%. That's very interesting. I wouldn't say in 1 week, maybe a couple of weeks, right? Coin was down 9%, yeah, about 25%, right, in 2 weeks. So 2-3 weeks, it should be able to make up that 25%. I'm looking at something like this, right? Some falling wedge before we kind of break out on Coin. The next one is JD. And again, the reason for that is on the weekly chart, you can see there's a resistance, kind of just consolidating here. That doesn't mean, I'm saying short JD only if it, breaks this weekly support level of 56. If it breaks 56, the next major support is at 49. So that would make a very nice short. JD could just as easily, kind of consolidate over 56, right, at this downtrend resistance and break out, right? So yeah, if we do break down, that would make a nice short. I just kind of wanted to point that out on this week's watch list, so you guys, have a candidate if the market turns bearish to kind of see where you want to play. That's the one. The next stock I was looking at was SC. And again, this was a stock that you can see this is the downtrend line for SC, kind of had that brief fake breakout, right? Kind of like JD, right? Hovering over this, the minute you break below support, you have a massive sell-off. So if JD breaks below 56, right, it's kind of the reasoning behind JD. Again, SC, I have this coming down for that C wave, right? Once that's bottomed, for me personally, if it can get back over 55, I think ultimately would need a break of this downtrend at 60 to go higher, but 55 is a good level to, kind of start and push above. So it's kind of what I have for SC. Would kind of make an interesting stock for the watch list, right? Last but not the least, kind of have MRNA. And again, the reason for that is kind of have some kind of megaphone pattern where this is acting as resistance. But again, I would like to see it break back, right? We know this is supply break back below 185, right? And so it can come down to like 150-ish. Right now, you can see that it kind of has like 5 waves to the upside, right? So again, another reason why, I could see a test of 160, 150 pretty easily if it breaks below 185. And again, this megaphone pattern. And again, obviously, if it breaks over this 211, it's likely to go higher. But for now, I'm looking to see if it breaks back underneath supply rate, kind of like what happened with Microsoft is you can see the minute we broke back, right, broke out, broke below, had a sell-off. So something like that. It's kind of what I'm seeing, looking to see if it happens on MRNA. So yeah, that's all I have for this week's watch list, right? If you look at the dollar, for example, this was the megaphone pattern we broke down. Still, this is the second level of support, right here, and dollar is still kind of weak, right? If it breaks below 103, then I think the next level is 101. Again, this is a pretty, dangerous area to kind of be, like short the dollar because it does have a support here. It does have a trendline support, right? You would need to see it firmly break below the trendline support to continue lower, because if we go to the weekly chart, you can kind of see that we have this area is kind of holding, but that doesn't mean it cannot drop back to this 101 level I mentioned, right? Dollar does kind of look weak to still go lower. Let's kind of see, right? Below 104, we have 101.3. So yeah, it's kind of what we have for the dollar. So yeah, I hope you have a great week. Thank you so much.